Okay, you are under arrest on suspicion of rape and sexual activity with a child. The investigation concerns the vaginal rape of a 13-year-old female, which occurred overnight on the 30th of September.
So, case of gang rape of a female who's 13, 3 unknown males. This occurred on the 1st of the 10th, the 1st of October, approximately 7 o'clock in the morning.
Something got smoked on a night. My man got hit with a pole, got left like Joe from Family Guy, and the both in the sky, that's family ties.
Before we get started, let's introduce Paul Maxwell, also known as YM. At 24 years old, he's a member of LTH, or Lower Tulse Hill, a group sometimes called the Catfish Gang. Based out of the Tulse Hill estate in the SW2 area, LTH is a well-known street gang. Unlike many in his scene, YM keeps a low profile and, as far as we know, hasn't ventured into music. To understand his gang's background, let's take a look at the history of LTH. In the 1990s and early 2000s, members of Tulse Hill often aligned themselves with prominent Brixton gangs like the 28s and PDC. By the 2000s, they became known as the Tulse Hill Mandem, and sometimes went by T-Block. Ties between Tulse Hill and Brixton were solid until around 2008, when things started to change. During this period, a younger generation from the Tulse Hill estate, known as TN1, short for Trust No One or Tell No One, began to clash with Brixton gangs like Gas, OC, Siru, and RSG. Eventually, tensions spread within Tulse Hill itself, as Lower Tulse Hill, TN1, developed rivalries with Upper Tulse Hill, which remained aligned with Brixton. By the early 2010s, TN1 had evolved, adopting the name 861, a reference to TN, and 1 on a trap phone's keypad, paying homage to their previous identity. In the late 2000s and 10s, the newest generation emerged under the name LTH, with aliases like CUG, Creep Up Gang, and CG, Catfish Gang. Today, LTH is closely tied with groups like 674, 55, 417, ABM, BG, Harlem, Cuckoo, Mitcham, and Gypsy Hill, with looser affiliations to 51st and CGM. Their rivals include 150, 410, 031, 1737, Siru, Up Top, Claptown, and Roadside. And recently, they've also faced conflicts with Harlem and LPW Croydon sets. But the real reason you clicked on this video is to dive into the case of YM from LTH, so let's jump right in. 3 men have been sentenced for the rape of a 13-year-old girl following an in-depth investigation by specialist Met detectives. On Friday, 11th October, Paul Maxwell, 24, 3rd December 1999, of Wood Lane Estates, W12, was sentenced to 12.5 years. Kion Bola, 29, 28th October 1994, of No Fixed Address, and Jeremiah Jackson, 24, 8th November 99, of Longford Court, W12, were both jailed for 11 years. All 3 men were given sexual harm prevention orders lasting 15 years. The victim, age 13, left her home address on the 30th of September 2023 and traveled into London, where she encountered the 3 defendants at a tube station in Hammersmith. They lured her back to Maxwell's flat, where she was raped by all 3. Detectives gathered a combination of forensic evidence, CCTV, and phone analysis. Working closely with specialists from CPS London's Rape and Serious Sexual Offences Unit, they built up a case against the 3 defendants. CCTV showed the group traveling from the station towards the flat. In-depth phone analysis also revealed a short video clip of the 3 men carrying out their attack. This evidence played a significant part in convicting the 3 men. Detective Constable Will Murphy, who led the investigation, said, "Firstly, I would like to thank the victim for her ongoing support in this case and for her extreme bravery in coming forward and reporting this to police. This has been a challenging investigation. However, due to the dedicated efforts of my team, we were able to secure convictions. I hope the victim feels that justice has been served." Today's sentencing highlights how despicable this crime was, and Maxwell, Bola, and Jackson will now face the consequences of their horrendous actions. The Met is here to support victims of sexual assault and to provide the best care we can. Please do not hesitate to come to us. The victim read out a victim impact statement, a part of which said, "I have gone over the date 1,000,000 times, thinking of what I could have done differently to change the outcome of what happened to me. No matter what I change, it would have ended the same way. This is because these 3 men, fully grown men, knew exactly what they were going to do as soon as they saw me at Hammersmith. I was caught alone and vulnerable, but that shouldn't have mattered." On 22nd July, all 3 defendants were found guilty of rape, with Maxwell convicted of an additional count, following a 3-week trial at Southwark Crown Court. Before we end this video, I want to make something very clear. This video is for informational and awareness purposes only. The intention is not to glorify gang culture or violence, but to provide a better understanding of the topic and its broader implications. Viewer discretion is advised, as some parts of this discussion may be sensitive. Gangs are a harsh reality in many communities across the world. They often emerge in areas where poverty, lack of opportunities, and systemic issues leave young people vulnerable to recruitment. Some of the most well-known gangs, they all operate differently, but all thrive on power, control, and fear. Gangs can be involved in various illegal activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, robbery, and even human trafficking. But beyond their crimes, the ripple effects of gangs on communities can be devastating. Families live in fear, young people are drawn into cycles of violence, and trust in law enforcement often erodes, leaving neighborhoods feeling trapped in a constant state of unease. What's important to understand is that many gang members don't join out of choice. They join out of necessity. They might be looking for a sense of belonging, protection, or survival in a world where opportunities feel non-existent. But while some see gangs as a way out of poverty or insecurity, the reality is far darker. Once inside, leaving a gang can feel nearly impossible. Communities plagued by gang violence need more than just policing. They need systemic change. That includes access to education, jobs, and support systems that can steer young people away from gang involvement and give former members a second chance. Again, this isn't about excusing gang-related actions, but understanding why gangs exist and how we can tackle their root causes. I want to take a moment to discuss something that intersects with gang activity and extends far beyond it: the issue of sexual violence and how it impacts victims. This is a topic that doesn't get enough attention, and when it does, it's often surrounded by stigma or misinformation. Sexual violence affects millions of people worldwide, and its effects can be devastating. Victims often feel isolated, ashamed, or powerless, and it's critical to remember that none of it is their fault, ever. The fault lies solely with the perpetrator. The trauma caused by sexual violence can manifest in many ways. Emotionally, survivors may experience anxiety, depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder. Physically, they may struggle with sleep disturbances, chronic pain, or other health issues linked to the attack. Socially, trust becomes a major hurdle, making relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, difficult to maintain. It's also important to recognize that survivors process trauma differently. Some may speak out immediately, while others may take years to come forward. Both are valid responses, and there is no right or wrong way to heal. For those watching who may know someone affected by sexual violence, the best thing you can do is listen without judgment and believe them. Your support can make all the difference in their healing process. Encouraging them to seek professional help is valuable, but it's equally important not to pressure them before they're ready. If you're watching this as a survivor, please know you are not alone. There are people who care, who want to help, and who can guide you toward healing. Recovery is not linear and it takes time, but you deserve peace and support. To wrap this up, whether we're talking about gangs or sexual violence, the root cause often boils down to systems that fail people. Poverty, inequality, and lack of access to resources create environments where cycles of harm continue. Breaking these cycles starts with education, empathy, and action, on both an individual and systemic level. Thank you for watching this video. If you or someone you know has been impacted by these issues, I encourage you to seek support from trusted organizations and professionals. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, and let's keep these conversations going.